Hi, I'm Dr. Kathy McFarland.
And I'm Mark Bobo, and welcome to the May edition of the OSBA Forum. Kathy, it's an exciting time in my household because school's almost out.
School is almost out. Sports
Yeah.
are coming to an end.
Yeah.
Graduation parties are taking place.
Yes.
It's exciting. It's
It
exciting.
is,
The
it
weather's
is.
changing, and I always like to talk to the kiddos that live in my neighborhood, and it sounds like they had a really great school year. So
Yeah.
big thank you to all the teachers out there and all the
Definitely.
administrators that support our students every day.
Yeah, my daughter came to me this morning and said the countdown is down to 3. After today,
Wow.
3 days left. And of course, the junior came downstairs and said, I have 3 days to get these grades together.
Okay.
So, you know,
So
simple
different.
things like that. Yeah.
So do they still do field day and
Oh, yes. This
events? Are they-
field day will be on Thursday for the little one, and the 6th grader had his field day earlier this week. So it's an exciting
That
time.
was my favorite day.
Oh, yeah,
Hands
for
down
sure.
favorite day.
Thinking
So-
about nothing but fun. So it's an exciting time here in the state of Ohio. And again, we're excited to be here for the May edition of the OSBA Forum. You know, at OSBA, we are still committed to being that leading voice in the support of public education here in the state of Ohio. And this forum is yet another example of the support and advocacy that we're providing to you, our membership. And Kathy, we're really excited to have a great guest with us here today. Who do we have with us?
Yes, Mark, we're excited to introduce Mr. Paul LaRue, President of the State Board of Education. In 1985, Paul entered the classroom as a high school social studies teacher at Washington Courthouse High School, where he remained for 29 years. Paul also was the varsity wrestling coach, leading his team to 2 Southeast Division II sectional wrestling titles. Paul has been the recipient of numerous state and national teaching awards, including American Legion Ohio Educator of the Year, Veterans of Foreign Wars Ohio Teacher of the Year, and the Ohio Daughters of American Revolution American History Teacher of the Year. Gosh, he was busy. Now listen to this. Nationally recognized, Paul received Time Warner's National Teacher Award, the History Channel's First Place Innovation in History Education, and the African American Civil War Memorial Teacher of the Year. Since retiring, Paul has continued, which is so great, to work with social studies teachers and create educational content for the Ohio World War I Centennial, the Black History Bulletin, and the National Park Service. He also serves on the editorial board of the Black History Bulletin. And Paul and his wife, Kathleen, live in Washington Courthouse. Paul, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Kathy. Thanks, Mark. It's great to be here.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about, before we get into the business,
You're right.
Talk to us about those 29 years in that classroom.
Absolutely. I was blessed. I'm from a family farm in southeastern Ohio. I come from a family of teachers, and in my family, you're a teacher or a farmer or both. Yeah. And so, you know, growing up and being around education, it was natural for me to go into it. I've always had a love of history. So it's been a privilege for me to teach in Washington Courthouse for a career. It's a great community, you know, like all the communities around the state, and then I certainly had the opportunity to now serve on the State Board of Education, which is an honor for me to bring, you know, a little bit of a voice from my corner of the state to the board.
Was it a working farm? What kind of farm was it?
Yeah, it's a hill farm. We raised cattle, had
Yeah.
about 100 head of Angus brood cows, and then we raised corn and soybeans. It's, again, the southeast corner of Fairfield County. I went to Fairfield Union High School, which is in the southeastern corner of Fairfield County. So, yeah, absolutely. Actually, I'm 6th generation family farm.
Yeah.
So I come out of a long line of, again, farmers and teachers. So.
My brother's a farmer, so I have baled many bales, and he has cattle also, so I can appreciate a good working farm. So welcome.
I want to thank you for your time in the classroom and that education that you did there. So appreciative of that work. My wife is a teacher, so I totally understand that type of dedication and commitment. So thank you for that. And one day you have to invite us over to see all those awards on the mantle.
Yeah,
we got to see all those. That's wonderful.
Right.
But to the business at hand, you know, as you're serving as the president of the State Board of Education here in the state of Ohio, could you share with us what the State Board's priorities are at this time?
Absolutely, and I suppose before I get started, let me just say this about the board. The board is made up of 19 members. It's a wonderful group. We're a very diverse group geographically, different parts of the state. I'm so proud and honored to serve with the board, but I might mention today I'm speaking on behalf of myself. I'm not speaking on behalf of the board. I'm just here as you know, a person who's been in education for 40 plus years, talking a little bit about it, but I'm so blessed and honored to serve with the folks that I do on the State Board of Education.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, certainly.
Yes, you had asked me about the priorities. You know, last fall, as part of our budget, as we were working up towards the budget, we came up with 4 priorities that we felt very strongly about: literacy, learning acceleration, career development, and support of the business advisory councils.
And so those four priorities, what brought it down to those four things? We think those are all important, but I'm sure there was a number of things that came across you all's table. How did you all kind of drill down to those four priorities?
Absolutely. You know, a lot of it, I think, came from what lessons learned from the pandemic, things that we've seen, and again, and for me, it's exciting because I think a lot of people are using those same priorities. We're for the first time, or one of the times in education, we're all kind of saying the same things. And again, literacy just, you just start with that piece, and it's so daggone important. So it's, those were things that the board, and again, this was actually the budget committee last year on the board said, these are our priorities, and actually went to, to the executive budget saying, this is where we think the money should go.
Wow. And so in that vein, with the state board now having just selected a second interim superintendent, Dr. Chris Willard, if I'm correct. If you could just tell us a little bit about him and that selection process.
Absolutely, that's a great question, Mark. And it is Dr. Chris Willard. Many folks that have, he's been with the department for probably close to 20 years. He has been the chief program officer recently, and so he's been a face that many school districts would be familiar with. He also has given testimony at the State House. I worked a lot with Dr. Willard last year. I chaired the Performance and Impact Committee, and that was one of the groups that he worked with. And so he's, I think he's the right pick at the right time, and I think he'll do a great job as interim. Although I must say, it was sad to lose Dr. Siddons. Dr. Siddons was wonderful. She had done a fantastic job. I'm extremely happy for her, and actually for the Upper Arlington schools. Our loss is certainly their gain. So I'm excited. I'm excited for Dr. Willard's time, but I'm always, in education, we're used to seeing people come and go, and I mean, that's,
Yeah, we have such respect for Dr. Siddons.
Certainly.
So good for you, Upper Arlington, for getting a great, a rock star, quite honestly. So, all right, so you have an interim, but you're going to be looking for a permanent superintendent, yes? And I think one of the questions out there is, why is it taking so long?
Great question. One of the things that the Ohio Constitution says is literally the State Board of Education's job is to select the state superintendent. And obviously this process has drug on for far too long. Currently, we have actually selected a search firm, and we're ready to move ahead. But the truth is, until we know exactly, there's some things in the legislature right now, and until we know what that role is going to be, it seems, I don't want to say irresponsible, but it's very hard to say, hey, here's what we think you might do, or here's what so until we know for sure. But we're ready. The board members are chomping at the bit to get that position filled. So it's not like we're dragging our feet, but it's just been a kind of a series of circumstances. But I think in the next 30 to 60 days, we'll know for sure how this is all going to shake out, and then we're ready to move ahead.
Great. Good.
Yeah.
You want me to go?
Yeah.
Okay. I just didn't know if you wanted to ask the bills. So let's shift gears a little bit. What does the board think of the current budget proposals?
Well, we're excited. The executive budget, and again, the governor was very generous with the same priorities we talked about, literacy, learning acceleration, and the legislature as well. So as far as the budget itself goes, the House is using slightly different numbers than the Senate, which is a slightly different thing. But it's, again, as a longtime person in education, for everybody to basically be saying, yeah, literacy is a priority. Right. Learning acceleration is a priority. So it's more a question of how much money is going to go where, but to me, it's exciting to hear people all saying the same thing.
Yeah. And we've always said, show me your budget, and I'll show you where your priorities
That's
are.
right.
Yeah. So.
And so you continue to mention literacy. What exactly does that look like? We said it's a priority for the state board, but what does that look like from the board's perspective?
Great question. And of course, again, a lot of this comes through the State House. Last year we put the literacy guide together, the dyslexia guide. And part of that was as part of the literacy outreach work. We want districts, and we want to support districts, and I think that's one of the things. We have 600 plus public districts in the state of Ohio, with a state that has local control. And again, I'm a country person, so I very much resonate to local districts and the work that boards are doing. But we want to support that with the science of reading, and with materials and with things that are going to help teachers do that heavy lift to get those students where they need to be.
Yeah, so with that said, you spoke about how there's different things in the legislatures, and of course there's some challenges there, right? Specifically, as Senate Bill 1 and House Bill 12, which essentially will take some of the vested powers that are presently with the State Board of Education and transfer them over to a potential new department, I believe the Department of Workforce Development. Can you kind of talk about the State Board's thoughts on that potential transition?
Absolutely, Mark, and that's a great, that's probably one of the most, topics that is most top of mind right now, certainly for the board. And it is an interesting time. The State Board, as I mentioned, has been around for 70 years. It was established in 1953, so it's kind of interesting that we've been in this position for a number of years. And I think the board does really strong work with transparency, with public participation and things like that. So I couldn't be more proud of that. So I think the board, in fact, 2 months ago had a resolution actually supporting the transparency and the role that the board has. I will say, to be fully transparent, I did not vote for that because, to be honest, I personally, if there's a way we can reorganize the Department of Education in a better way, I'm open to that. Now, maybe that's the old coach in me. Sometimes you do things a certain way and you figure out, hey, maybe we better try something different. If it sounds like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, it's really not. I'm incredibly proud and supportive of the work that we do. But if, in fact, there's a better way, if we can help students and teachers and their families do it, I'm open to that.
Did you get pushback for that? Was it confusing to some people?
I think so, and to be honest, and it's the way the board is composed. Part of it is, we have 11 elected members and 8 appointed members.
Right.
I'm a appointee of the governor.
Okay.
I mean, I'm on the board because I'm an appointee of the governor. Now, one of the things that I enjoy about our governors, we're basically left to do, we're left to kind of make decisions and do things as we want to. But definitely there's, I don't want to say it's hard feelings, it's just different ways of, again, I think we all want the same thing, which are the best possible outcomes for students.
Yeah.
It's just how do we get there?
Yeah. So as a former teacher and principal, anytime you talk about retaining a child, right, having a child maybe do a grade again or experience again, brings me to our next question, which is, what's the State Board's position on the 3rd grade retention? The ruling with that. Do you have conversations around that?
Absolutely, great question, Kathy. Started last year when we were in performance and impact and we were working with the cut scores, because one of the things that committee does is establishes the cut scores. Right. And one of the things that we have known, because this has been around for about 10 years at this point, and we have ample data. And one of the board members, Dr. Collins, was very, really took a position on this and said, what, the data does not support retaining these students. We want to help these students, we want to get them, but the retention itself, and then she and another board member, Member Shea, actually put together a resolution. This was actually last fall, and the board went ahead with that, and we do not support the retention part of the 3rd grade as a board, and we're actually working with members in the legislature there's actually a bill in the legislature right now to take out the retention piece. The data, the science just does not seem to support the idea of holding students back.
It supports the resources, right? The interventions that are put into
100%.
place, 100%. That when you kind of rethink and redo things, that's what works. But it is that retention piece that can be very controversial. So thank you for that input.
When you're talking about the retention piece of the legislation and talking about literacy, obviously the science of reading is a major topic in public education here in the state of Ohio. Can you give us just some understanding of the science of reading, but specifically, is it mandate, recommendation? What are we supposed to do?
Again, great question, Mark, because this is one of the things that we hear from our local districts. I mean, they're like, hey, we've been doing some good stuff, and now you're telling us. So the science of reading is a series of practices, and the Ohio Department of Education, not to sound like a shill for the department, but Dr. Melissa Weber-Mayer is a wonderful outreach resource on literacy, and she's fantastic. And one of the things that the science of reading teaches, there's a series of steps and things, and so there are certain materials that are more closely aligned to the science of reading. It's not and when I first heard it, I thought, well, there's this one book or there's this one. It's really a series of things, and what we want to do is support districts in their literacy work to help them, get to where they need to be.
So with it, a lot of people say we're doing great things in our district already. Here's something that we might be forced to do. I think what I'm hearing you saying, though, is that you support the local districts doing what's best for kids where they are.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the local control. And maybe this is from me being a classroom teacher.
Sure.
The person that generally knows it best is the person that's the closest to the students. Whether it's a classroom teacher or the local. That's why your school boards, your local boards, are such they're such a resource because they have that knowledge. So I feel like the department and the state board, we should be there to, we're a resource. We're there to support. I'm not personally, again, this is personal. I'm not big on mandating, because generally one size doesn't fit all.
Right.
Do you guys remember block scheduling?
Oh, yes, we tried it.
Oh, yeah.
We did block scheduling, and we went to a 2-hour block.
Yeah.
So one year we were doing 42-minute periods, and next year we were doing 2-hour blocks. Science teachers loved it.
Right.
Math teachers hated it.
Yeah.
And social studies, we were kind of in the middle.
Right.
And so I always think about block scheduling as a good example of, and so if districts are doing things that are working, by golly, we want to support them.
Right. I think you're up.
Am I?
Yeah.
Yes. So we're making it work. No. So your vision for public education, how does that support the work of the Ohio School Board Association and our membership?
Absolutely, and it really goes back to the conversation we were just having with literacy, and that is we want to support districts to run themselves. I was recently at the Chorus, which is the Coalition of Rural and Appalachian Schools, and what the superintendents say is, let us run our business. Let us, and that's when you hear board members, let us, we know what works in southeastern Ohio or in metropolitan districts or wherever. And so, my vision is that let them run their business. And I think the department wants to do that. I don't think, there's some regulations that are obviously federal, there's some regulations that are state, but we really want to empower local districts and local boards to run their business because they know it best.
Yeah.
Right. So you are the co-chair of the Education Committee for America 250 Ohio. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. It's one of the kind of fun, exciting things. I always have one foot in history, and in the year 2026 will be the 250th anniversary. Yeah. Now, the technical term for that is semi-quincentennial, which does not exactly roll off your tongue.
Yeah, say that 3 times. Right.
So we like to say Ohio 250 because it comes off. But we're really excited about communities getting involved and schools and, hopefully there's some educational components as resources, not something we're going to mandate, but things, because Ohio has a really interesting and unique history. And so I think the 250 is a way to, to highlight. And I think we're kind of on the front end. I think you're going to hear more about this. There are 7,000 Revolutionary War veterans buried in the state of Ohio.
Wow.
That is way more than most people would have any clue. So there's a lot of kind of exciting things, and I'm the world's biggest history geek. I'm a self-avowed history geek. So, but I think it's a way to get students and communities, hopefully excited and involved. I co-chair with State Representative Joe Miller. It is designed. It's the semi-quincentennial is not meant to be political. It's meant to be a fun, educational time for really communities to kind of say, hey.
Yeah.
And again, you guys are young, but I was in high school. I was in high school in 1770. I was not. I am old. I was in high school in 1976, and I remember how exciting the bicentennial was, and it's hard to believe that it's 50 years later and we're now talking about that. So it's an exciting, and I think you'll be hearing more about it.
And how will we hear more about it? Through the
Well,
department's
there's
website,
actually it is actually its own entity.
Okay.
And so you can go to, they have a website and all that, but also schools and things. And again, we're going to have hopefully more outreach to get, students and communities involved.
Okay, we'll make sure that we get that information to our members because
Yeah.
we want to make sure that we promote that for you. So.
Because we're highlighting the many different things that have happened here in the state of Ohio throughout the history of our country. Is that what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So I think that'll be great, and I'm sure our schools will be anxious to be able to support that effort to highlight the great work in the state of Ohio. So, President LaRue, really appreciate you being here today. This has been a wonderful conversation, and thank you for your commitment to public education here in the state of Ohio, and thank you again for being here at the OSBA Forum.
Thank you. Thanks, Kathy. Thanks, Mark. This has been great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Well, Kathy, it's exciting times.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, to our membership on yesterday, you received an email regarding the retirement of Mr. Rick Lewis, who served as our executive director for the last 17 plus years. And we want to say, on behalf of the entire association, that we were honored to be under his leadership for that period of time. Rick Lewis has meant a lot to us as an association and to our membership. His many years of support and advocacy on behalf of public education and directly to our members cannot be understated. So Rick, we hope you're watching. We want you to know how much we appreciate you. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your care and concern for us, even as a staff. Really appreciate all the work that Rick did for us.
Yeah. Yesterday was a hard day. I
Yes.
mean, a proud
It's
day.
tough.
I guess he's done such great work here in the state of Ohio and for public education. But it's always hard when a great leader transitions out of an organization. So as Mark says, Rick, thank you from the OSBA team, and especially from me. For 6 years, he served as my mentor and my leader. So what a great experience, and I've grown tremendously under his leadership.
And at the same time, we're excited as we start a new chapter here at the Ohio School Board Association to welcome and support our new executive director, Dr. Kathy McFarland.
Can you believe it?
My woo is not as good as yours. I tried it though. I tried it.
Thank you, Mark.
But no, we're excited about this next chapter and this next phase for the Ohio School Board Association. And Kathy, on behalf of the staff, you have all of our support as we move forward in this next time. And I would ask you to give us a list of all your priorities right now, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. But
90-day plan.
Yeah, but Kathy, just share some words with us as we take this
Mark,
next step.
I've been in education for 32 years now, and two things that I have found. First of all, working with teams, love it. I love working with teams that have such a great mission, and so the OSBA team is here. We work hard to support our members, and then the second greatest thing is that we're serving students, and that's as long as students are in my job description. Then I have landed in a really great place. So I really look forward to working with this team, working with our friends and different associations, and really serving our students in the state of Ohio.
Yeah, well, we're excited to have you, Kathy.
Well, thank you,
We're
Mark.
so excited. So just a quick note, the forum is going on summer break as well. We'll be back. We'll be back at the end of August to come back again and to bring the most pressing topics to you and make sure that we have the decision makers, the policy makers, those who really impact public education, make sure we have them on the forefront to have them with you. So Kathy, any last word for our membership?
Hey, enjoy the summertime. Make sure you keep your eyes on those kiddos so that we have a safe summer.
Definitely.
But thank you so much for all you do for all of our students.